Nittai Gaura Premanande, Hari Hari Bol, all glories assembled of Haris, Hare Krishna, all glories assembled of Haris, Hare Krishna, all glories assembled of Haris, Hare Krishna, all glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're reading today from Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 9, Text 20 to 21. Let me just see how much is written here. Okay, so I guess we'll. Does everyone have Bhagavatam written? Should we? Let's recite the whole thing. I think. Okay. I don't think. Yeah, we weren't able to fit it all on, but yeah. Nanyair adhishtitam bhadra yad bhrajishnu dhruvakshiti yatra graharksha taranam jyotisham chakramahitam medhyam go chakravatsthasnu parastat kalpavasinam dharmogni kashyapa shukro munayo yevanokasaha charanti dakshini kritya Brahmanto yatsatarakaha. Nainyar adhitishtam bhadra yad brajishnu dhruvakshiti yatra graharksha taranam jyotisham chakramahitam medhyam go chakravatsthasnu parastat kalpavasinam dharmogni kashyapa shukro munayo yevanokasaha charanti dakshini kritya Brahmanto yatsatarakaha. Final time. Nanyar adhishtitam bhadra yad bhrajishnu dhruvakshiti yatra graharksha taranam jyotisham chakramahitam medhyam go chakravatsthasnu parastat kalpavasinam dharmogni kashyapa shukro munayo yevanokasaha charanti dakshini kritya Brahmanto yatsatarakaha. Nanyar adhishtitam bhadra yad brajishnu dhruvakshiti yatra graharkshara taranam jyotisham chakramahitam मेढ्यं गोचक्रवत्स्थास्नु परस्तत्कल्पवासिनां धर्मोऽग्निकश्यपः शुक्रो मुनयो येव नौकसः शरन्ति कृत्या भ्रमन्तो यत्सतारकः नान्ये अधिष्ठितां भद्रा यद्भ्रजिष्णु ध्रुवाक्षिति यत्र ग्रहार्षताराणां मेढ्यं गोचक्रवत्स्थास्नु परस्तात्कल्पवासिनां धर्मोऽग्निकश्यपः शुक्रो मुनयो येव नौकसः शरन्ति दक्षिणीकृत्या भ्रमन्तो यत्सतारकाः नान्यैरधिष्ठितं भद्रा यद्भ्रजिष्णु ध्रुवाक्षिति यत्र ग्रहर्क्षताराणां ज्योतिषं चक्र आहितम् मेढ्यं गोचक्रवत्स्थास्नु परस्तात्कल्पवासिनां धर्मोऽग्निकश्यपः शुक्रो मुनयो येव नौकसः चरन्ति दक्षिणीकृत्या भ्रमन्तो यत्सतारकाः नान्यैरधिष्ठितं भद्रा यद्भ्रजिष्णु ध्रुवाक्षिति यत्र ग्रहर्क्षताराणां ज्योतिषां चक्रम् आहितम् मेढ्यं गोचक्रवत्स्थास्नु परस्तात्कल्पवासिनां धर्मोऽग्निकश्यपः शुक्रो मुनयो येव नौकसः चरन्ति दक्षिणीकृत्या भ्रमन्तो यत्सतारकाः नान्यैरधिष्ठितं भद्रा यद्भ्रजिष्णु ध्रुवाक्षिति यत्र ग्रहर्क्षताराणां ज्योतिषं चक्रमाहितम् मेढ्यं गोचक्रवत्स्थास्नु परस्तात्कल्पवासिनां धर्मोऽग्निकश्यपः शुक्रो मुनयो येव नौकसः चरन्ति दक्षिणीकृत्या भ्रमन्तो यत्सतारकः नान्यैरधिष्ठितं भद्रा यद्भ्रजिष्णु ध्रुवाक्षिति Yatra graharksha taranam Jyotisham chakramahitam Medhyam go chakravatsthasnu Parastat kalpavasinam Dharmogni kashyapa shukro Munayo ye vanaukasaha Charanti dakshini kritya Brahmanto yatsatarakaha Na, never, Anyahi, by others, Adhishtitam, was ruled, Bhadra, my good boy, Yat, which, Bhrajishnu, brightly glowing, Dhruvakshiti, the land known as Dhruvaloka, Yatra, where, Graha, planets, Riksha, constellations, Taranam, and stars, Jyotisham, by luminaries, Chakram, encirclement, Ahitam, is done, Medhyam, around a central pole, Go, of bulls, Chakra, a multitude, Vat, like, Sthasnu, stationary, Parastat, beyond, Kalpa, a day of Brahma, millennium, Vasinam, those who live, Dharmaha, Dharma, Agnihi, Agni, Kashyapaha, Kashyapa, Shukraha, Shukra, Munayaha, great sages, Ye, all of them who, Vana Okasaha, living in the forest, Charanti, move, Dakshini Kritya, keeping it to their right, Brahmantaha, circumambulating, Yat, which planet, Satarakaha, with all the stars. Translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead continued, My dear Dhruva, I shall award you the glowing planet known as the pole star, which will continue to exist even after the dissolution at the end of the millennium. No one has ever ruled this planet, which is surrounded by all the solar systems, planets and stars. All the luminaries in the sky circumambulate this planet, just as bulls tread around a central pole for the purpose of crushing grains. Keeping the pole star to their right, all the stars inhabited by the great sages like Dharma, Agni, Kashyapa, and Shukra circumambulate this planet, which continues to exist even after the dissolution of all others. Purport. Although the pole star existed before its occupation by Dhruva Maharaj, it had no predominating deity. Dhruvalok, our pole star, is the center for all other stars and solar systems, for all of them circle around Dhruvaloka just as a bull crushes grains by walking around and around a central pole. Dhruva wanted the best of all planets, and although it was a childish prayer, the Lord satisfied his demand. A small child may demand something from his father, which his father has never given to anyone else. Yet out of affection, the father offers it to the child. Similarly, this unique planet, Dhruvalok, was offered to Maharaj Dhruva. The specific significance of this planet is that until the entire universe is annihilated, this planet will remain, even during the devastation which takes place during the night of Lord Brahma. There are two kinds of dissolutions, one during the night of Lord Brahma and one at the end of Lord Brahma's life. At the end of Brahma's life, selected personalities go back home, back to Godhead. Dhruv Maharaj is one of them. The Lord assured Dhruva that he would exist beyond the partial dissolution of this universe. Thus, at the end of the complete dissolution, Dhruva Maharaj would go directly to Vaikuntha Loka, to a spiritual planet in the spiritual sky. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments in this connection that Dhruvalok is one of the lokas like Shvetadvip, Mathura, and Dwarka. They are all eternal places in the kingdom of Godhead, which is described in the Bhagavad Gita, Tad Dhama Paramam, and in the Vedas, Om Tad Vishnu Paramam Padam, Sada Dhama Param, Sada Pashanti Surayaha. The words Parastat Kalpa Vasinam, transcendental to the planets inhabited after the dissolution, refer to the Vaikuntha planets. In other words, Dhruva Maharaja's promotion to the Vaikuntha Lokas was guaranteed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Soyam Rupah Kadama Hyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanshana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratvishe Namaha Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Potitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So, welcome everyone to Srimad Bhagavatam class and happy Ekadashi. Today we will be discussing, today is Ekadashi, right? Yeah, just make sure I didn't not fasting for no reason. So, today we are hearing, of course, of the wonderful benedictions that Dhruva Maharaj he is receiving with all of his, Prabhupada says, childlike desires. Of course, all of our desires are very childlike. I remember once I was hearing one interview with one sannyasi, and the sannyasi, he is the first personality that he had taken shelter of, and he had received sannyas from, and so on and so forth, had some difficulties in his path of bhakti, and was no longer able to serve this sannyasi in the role of a spiritual master. And this sannyasi, he was speaking about that, and he was reflecting, and this devotee who was asking him was saying, how do you feel? Like, what is your reflection on that? And this sannyasi, I think, gave a really wonderful reflection. He said, of course, there are some feelings of like confusion and maybe disappointment, but ultimately, I think about that personality who had given me that shelter, and as much as I now have to, find shelter elsewhere, I'm very grateful. Because before I became a brahmachari, forget about being a sannyasi, before I became a brahmachari, I was going around and I was looking for this and that. I was looking for, all sorts of silly things, siddhis and jnana and all of these things. I was looking for all of these things. I was looking to become a very knowledgeable personality. I was looking, to be able to have laghima and mahima and all of these things. I was looking for all sorts of things. And this personality, he sat me down and he said, here is Krishna. Here is the Mahamantra. And with these things, you'll be able to attain true perfection. And so he said, I can never exchange how grateful I am. That though I was looking for so much nonsense, he gave me something substantial to look for. And so I have so much gratitude. And I thought this reflection is a very sweet one, right? Because it reflects that actually no one comes to the path of Krishna consciousness, no one comes to the path of bhakti with a sensible desire, right? This is why, of course, we know the first stage of the bhakti krama, the path of bhakti is, of course, Shraddha, right? But what do we hear? How can one attain Shraddha? right? How can one attain faith? Only through sadhu sangha, right? So people are there with all sorts of different conceptualizations. And then by the mercy of the Vaishnav, Vaishnav will enter into the life of the individual and will disrupt all of their childlike plans, right? Prabhupada once was walking through one city and all the disciples were with him. I don't know what city it was, but as they're walking through like the CBD with all the big buildings and everything, and they saw a little sign, and the sign was pointing to a little park, and the park was called Children's Fairyland. And Prabhupada, he looked at the sign and he laughed, and then he took his walking stick and he pointed at one of the big buildings and he said, Adults Fairyland. So we can see all of the hopes and desires, they're all childlike, they're all empty. Of course, we hear in the Srimad Bhagavatam, we hear about the foundation, if you will, of the four regulative principles, right? The four regulative principles, they're based upon the places which Kali, he was banished to, right? Correct? Yes. So we see that he is banished there. But of course we know Kali has a dilemma. The Parikshit Maharaj's rule, where can he find such places? And then of course he's granted one other place, right? And what is this other place? Where there's gold, right? Wherever gold is being held. This is interesting because of course we make a big deal about following the four regulative principles, as we should. But then of course we see that Kali is as much present in the hoarding of gold. So many people, they will still hold on to this desire, right? They'll say, oh, I'm not breaking any of the four regulative principles. Let me hoard some money, right? Let me be very ambitious. Let me have 50 investment properties and many, many cars. Oh, no, it's all right. I'm not eating mushrooms, right? But this is not what the Bhagavatam says. Bhagavatam is very clear, right? That as much as Kali resides in these four things, he is also residing in wealth. He is also residing in gold. And it is in gold that all of the hopes and aspirations of contemporary society lie, right? How do people measure if a country is happy, right? We don't measure how satisfied people are. We don't measure, oh, this is how much spiritual knowledge is there. We don't measure even, this is how much material knowledge is there. We say, oh, GDP is growing very nice, people must be happy, right? These are the, GDP growth, very good, very good. The rich get richer and the poor get poorer. Very good, very good. Haribol. So, what to do? A little bit of a heavy point, but this is the nature of reality. All of these things are empty dreams. And yet, also the dreams of the religionists are empty dreams. We know there's the ritualistic brahmanas, and on the border, if you will, of Mathura, right? They're in the similar sort of region as like Garga and Charya and all these other personalities who are kind of in the pastime, but not. They're sort of intersecting in. We can say in a sense they're like how Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and Maharaj Prataparudra are, in the fact that they are not eternal participants in the pastime, but they sort of enter in. They're sort of entering into the pastimes, right? And so people on this fringe, right, they sort of enter in to the pastimes even though they're not eternally participating into it. And of course we know their wives, the wives of the ritualistic brahmanas, they eventually do enter into these pastimes, right? But their husbands do not, right? Or rather, their husbands do not receive the same mercy. And of course, at one point they realize, we have neglected the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We know, of course, Krishna, he sends his friends, right? A little bit hungry. Actually, they're not hungry. Their meditation is that Krishna is hungry. But they think if we say that Krishna is hungry, Krishna will not want to serve us. So they say, we will tell Krishna that we are hungry, so that then Krishna will send us, so that we will be satisfied. But actually our satisfaction is that Krishna's hunger can be satisfied. That's their meditation. So they go along, and as we know, the brahmanas, they reject them. They don't even acknowledge they exist. They don't even give them an answer. And then very famously, when they realize the status of their wives, they say, Digjanma nastri vrid yattad, digvratam digbahugyatam, digkulam dik kriya dakshyam vimukha te tadokshaje. So what is that? They're saying to hell with all of these things. To hell with what? To hell with our birth, right? To hell with our family dynasty, dik kulam, right? To hell with our ritualistic sacrifices, kriya dakshyam, right? To hell with our vratas, right? Bahugyatam, right? To hell with all of our knowledge, all of our knowledge, all of that. All of it is useless, right? All of it is condemned. Why? Because we did not accept the Supreme Personality of Godhead when he was before us. So the dream of the materialist who is chasing after gold, that is a childish dream. But so too is the dream of the religionist, who wishes to become a noble member of religious systems, a noble member of religious society. That too is false, and it is condemned by these great religionists. It's said, one explanation why. Because of course people wonder, how could the wives of these brahmanas, how could the brahmanis have had the realization, but the brahmanas not? Sometimes this question is posed, and one answer I've heard is that when the Vrajvasi women would go, and they would go because of course they're Vaishyas, right? So they're engaging in mercantile activities. When they would go out and they would go to sell different items, right, that the village of Raj had produced. And so as they would go out to sell these items, they would go out to different locations. And as they would go to these different locations, right, they would obviously speak. But they would be unable to speak about anything else besides Krishna. And so what would happen is, while the brahmanas, they were engaged in the very serious activities of these Vedic rituals, while they were engaged in all of these things, their wives would do the very silly task of talking to these merchants. They would do the very empty task of just having some gossip with these merchants, right? But what are they gossiping about? What are they discussing? Hari Katha, right? All of these Vrajvasis would come and they would say, oh, you know, it's Krishna, he's so wonderful, he has this flute and he has this peacock feather, and they're hearing all of these things. And by hearing these things, a desire for Krishna consciousness arises. And yet their husbands, because they're engaged in very important activity, right, so-called, in the religionists' calculation, right, because they're engaged in all of these things, they were deprived of this. And thus, vimukha ye pradhokshaje, that's the shloka. So in this way we see there are all these childish, empty desires. Anyway, so Dhruva Maharaj, Prabhupada, he says he has this, and yet he receives something so great, so grand. And of course we hear Dhruva Lok, it's around 3,900,000 yojanas above the earth, which is roughly, I think, 50 million kilometers. That's roughly the distance between the Earth planet and the pole star. Of course, it is located within the Shishumar constellation, which is like a dolphin, right? And Shishumar means dolphin, and it's a point of meditation. The Bhagavatam, it gives some mantras that you can recite to engage in remembrance of it. Although we have a very nice mantra to engage in remembrance with, which is of course Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So with that we can engage in remembrance of the Lord, but still there's all these wonderful descriptions given in the Bhagavatam of all these other ways we can reflect and meditate upon the Lord. So we see here that this Dhruv Lok, it is there, and it is situated. And of course one title that the Bhagavatam gives to Dhruv Lok is that it is Sthanu. What does Sthanu mean? It can mean position, it can also mean pillar, because a pillar is that which gives something a fixed position. So Dhruv Lok, it is referred to as the pillar. And why is that? Because it is stationary, it doesn't move. Everything else is moving. Everything else is moving around it. Sometimes devotees, when they read the 5th canto, they say, oh, is the sun going around the earth or is the earth going around the sun? But actually it's neither, it's all going around Dhruv Lok, right? It's not heliocentric or geocentric, it's Dhruv Lok centric, right? But then, what does this further mean? Again, Dhruv and the Shishumar constellation, it's considered a representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Right? So what does it mean for all reality to rotate around Dhruv? What does it mean for all reality to revolve around this central position? It means that actually it's not even Dhruv-centric. The point of this fifth canto is that the universe is Krishna-centric. Right? The universe doesn't go around the sun. It doesn't go around the earth. It goes around Krishna. It is by Krishna's will that this whole universe is moving. And this is the demonstration of Dhruv being like the top of the chandelier. And everything else is just hanging off it. Because otherwise sometimes people will wonder, we're hearing all these descriptions of cosmology, right? And these are nice things, but how does this help my meditation on Krishna? We should think whenever we see the constellations in the sky and whenever we think of the world, we're thinking this whole thing, it is hanging. It is hanging off this one place that is glorifying the Supreme Lord. All of our reality is simply hanging off that and situated in this way. That's why Prabhupada in that chapter of I think it's chapter 23 of the fifth canto, where he describes the Shishumar constellation, he just smashes gravity non-stop. And again, it's interesting. You think, why is Prabhupada smashing gravity so much? It's because our meditation shouldn't be that this whole world is held up by some impersonal forces and reactions. It is the will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead that upholds this universe. And so Dhruvalok is a wonderful reminder of that. And yet it's also a wonderful reminder that Krishna would take this place which reminds all of us that the whole world is revolving around Krishna. Or rather, that the whole world should be revolving around Krishna. That he takes this place and he places his devotee upon it. So also we can think, yes, the whole world, this whole world is dependent on Krishna. This whole world is revolving around Krishna. But Krishna places his devotee in that center of the world. We see this in the Damodar Ashtakam commentary by Srila Sanatana Goswami. He talks about how Mother Jashoda, where does she bind Krishna? Where does she tie him up? On the mortar, but which part of his body is tied? His belly, right? His belly is conquered by Mother Jashoda, right? And so the point is made. Krishna is, of course, Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam, right? He is the origin of all of these forms of Vishnu Tattva. And so, all of the many Garbhodakashayi Vishnus who are having this lotus flower, right, extend from their navels, right, upon which the planetary systems and Brahma are held upon, right? The source of all those navels is the navel of Damodar. And that navel has been conquered by the devotee. So all of reality, it is under the control of the devotee, actually, because the devotee has transcended it fully. And being transcended it fully, Krishna, he gives it, right? Once heard from Kadambakanana Maharaj. We can ask the question in Nrsingadev's pastimes. In Nrsingadev, he appears, right? We all know, right? Half man, half lion, twilight, right? All of these different stipulations from the one boon that Brahma gave. And Maharaj, I can't remember, somebody asked him, I can't remember the context, it was a while ago, but Maharaj was asked, or was explaining, we can ask the question, Krishna, he is what? He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Does he need to do anything? No, right? Krishna, he is beyond everything. He is Svatantra, right? He rules himself, right? He has true Swaraj, right? And that is within Krishna, the ability to do anything. So why then does Krishna have to follow some boon? And Maharaj, he was saying, because Brahma, he is a devotee. And Krishna, he gives himself to the devotee. He will abide by the devotee's desire. And so Krishna, all of this material reality, it can all be given to the devotee. Once I heard Bhakti Vikas Swami Maharaj, I think he was speaking in regards to the Pushpa Samadhi in Mayapur. And Maharaj, he was saying, some people might think, wow, such a big temple for one garland, right? And he said, but if we were able to take every single particle in this universe, it would not weigh. If we were to take every single part of all of the planetary systems and put it on a scale, it would not weigh the same thing as one drop of dust from the lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada. And that is not sentimentalism. That is not some emotional outpour, but it is a very clear siddhanta that the devotee transcends matter fully. And so is inherently more valuable than anything in this world. So on the one hand, it is very great that Dhruva Lok is given to Dhruva. On the other hand, it is a recognition, because of course Dhruva Lok, it is both kind of in this world and not in this world, right? It's a divine embassy of Vaikuntha, right? It is a recognition that where else can the devotee be placed? But in this touch of transcendence. So in this way, we see this. So Dhruva Lok, it is not moving. Everything else is moving around it. And of course, sometimes we will hear these distances, and I don't know what the astronomical calculation is for how far away the pole star is. I think they say it's like 300 million kilometers away, something like that. And of course, all the astronomers, they'll write all these calculations and they'll put them in their, work very hard, and they'll get them published in their peer-reviewed publications and all these things. But until they work very hard and get it published in Srimad Bhagavatam, we will take Srimad Bhagavatam's version. So in this way, we see Dhruva Maharaj is given such a nice position. Of course, we also see that this place is described as both in the world and yet not in the world, right? It is Vaikuntha, and we were discussing that is the nature of the devotee. We know Dhruva Maharaj, as he's concluding his pastimes, he even gets to conclude them. He goes back home, back to Godhead in his self-same body, right? He doesn't take some other form. That body itself is spiritualized. And of course, we know, very famously, he turns back, right? He turns back and he has a little bit of, he looks over, and he gets, what does he look back for? He looks back out of concern. Does anyone know? Yeah, we can say maybe he has that, but when he's an adult, as he's about to enter into Vaikuntha, he looks back with one attachment. Yes. Mother, yes. He turns back to look for his mother, and Prabhupada gives a very nice explanation. Prabhupada, he speaks, and he says that actually Dhruva Maharaj, he's looking back because he's thinking, of course we know, and this is going all the way back. Once we will get to this in maybe a few months. My math's bad, but in a few months we will get to this section of Bhagavatam, right? And we'll see, we'll have heard how, of course, Dhruva Maharaj, he fights all these yakshas and he does this and that, right? And we get to hear all these majestic pastimes of such a long life lived. But at the end of it, it goes all the way back to the beginning, to the angry 5-year-old boy, right? And he thinks, what was my mother? She was my Shiksha Guru. She told me, go in the forest and do all of this. So I should have some attachment to the instruction of the spiritual master. Not that I think as the impersonalists do, as the Mayavadis do. Oh, I've attained self-realization, so now I don't need the Guru, right? Prabhupada, he says it's like somebody who gets helped up a mountain, and when he gets to the top of the mountain, he takes his guide and he pushes him off the edge. This is the Mayavadi Guru, right? Not in this way. Dhruva Maharaj, he maintains this, even as he is entering into Vaikuntha. And so there we see attachment to the Vaishnava, glories of the Vaishnava. It is central to all of this. Though we're hearing about all these planets, actually this whole section, it is a glorification of the position of the Vaishnava and the Vaishnavas. Both the glory of the Vaishnava and the attachment we should have to the devotees. Anyways, so in this way we hear this Dhruva Lok, it is like a dham, as Prabhupada mentions here. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he compares it to Mathura, Dwarka, all of these other places. And so I'll speak a little bit about the dham, and then maybe if we have time I'll speak on some other pastimes. But the dham is an interesting concept, because of course we can think of it in a very casual manner, right? People often discuss the dham, they'll discuss Vrindavan, they'll discuss Mayapur, they'll speak about all of these things. But the dham is to them, or maybe even to us, it is a place on a map, right? Here, if I go and I look at Uttar Pradesh, or I look at West Bengal, or I look at Orissa, here I will see Jagannath Puri, I will see Mayapur, I'll see Vrindavan, right? And here they are, these geographical locations. This is the Dham. But this is not the Dham. Our acharyas have said very clearly, it is actually a Dham aparad to define geographical limits to the Dham. To measure it out and to specifically say it is in one section here, this is actually an offense to the Dham. The Dham cannot be limited in such a way. Instead, the function of the Dham is, of course, we know the Supreme Personality of Godhead. What is he doing? Does he ever touch matter? No, he does not touch matter, right? That's why actually Jiva Goswami, he says that Krishna doesn't directly feel compassion to the conditioned souls. Because he doesn't actually realize, well, he doesn't actually have direct empathy of their suffering. Because he never actually touches and experiences what matter can give. But it is because Krishna is in the heart of his devotees who do understand the suffering that this material world can give. Because of that, he has some understanding of it, and because of that, he has mercy on the conditioned souls. So Krishna, he is brought to empathy by the Vaishnavas. Again, what are the glories of the Vaishnavas? Right? The Kripa Shakti of Krishna. Krishna's heart is melted in compassion, and we hear this. Prabhupada says often, Krishna, he's compassionate, he's merciful to the conditioned souls. But Jiva Goswami says he does this through the realization of his Vaishnava, who has had contact with matter. Krishna never touches matter, and so he never has a direct experience of the sufferings of the material world. But of course the devotees do. So, in this way, Krishna, he never directly touches the material world. And so if he never directly touches the material world, well then how does he appear here? This is the function of the Dham. The Dham is, of course, the Sandhini Shakti, the existence potency of the internal potency, right? The Sarup Shakti, it has the three primary ways that it undergirds Satchidananda, the qualities in Krishna, right? We know Sandhini, Samvid, Ladini, right? And so the Sandhini Shakti, it is manifesting all of those things. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, it discusses this. All of the different aspects of the Dham, the land itself, right? All of the paraphernalia, it is all manifesting from this. And of course, Balaram, he is presiding over all of this. And Balaram is presiding over it because, of course, Balaram is a supreme personality of servitor Godhead, right? He is serving Krishna by providing all of this for Krishna to manifest his pastime in. So in this way, this Shakti, it manifests the Dham. The Dham is the place where Krishna is able to manifest in the material world without ever taking step in the material world. The analogy that's often given is that of an embassy. Recently I was getting my passport updated, and when you walk into the embassy, so I have a German passport, I was like, I've managed to save a lot of money. I'm in Germany without buying a single plane ticket, right? Because the whole idea is that embassy is representing that place. And so the Dham is that. The Dham is not Krishna's pastimes in the material world. The Dham is the spiritual world as an embassy form. That is, of course, if we enter into the Dham, which is a point to be made. So then, what is the nature of the Dham? Or rather, the nature of the spiritual world? There are 9 qualities that are given, and I'll go through them very quickly because it was a long set of shlokas. So I'll go through them very quickly. So the first that is given by Jiva Goswami in Bhagavad Sandarbha is, it is not attained by any fruit of karma. And this is an important point. We cannot purchase a ticket to the Dham, right? We cannot purchase a flight to the Dham. We cannot walk into the Dham with the karmendriyas, with these limbs. We cannot enter it into it. This is why it's said, we know, in the Nectar of Instruction, it says, anyone who bathes in Radhakund, they will attain all of these high things. And yet, I mean, I've been to Radhakund. I sprinkled the water on my head. Nothing happened to me. I'm still here thinking about, how badly I want to have some rice and soya sabji on Ekadashi, right? I'm still here doing this. Why? Maybe my body was there, but my soul was not there. I did not truly enter into the Dham, right? I did not truly enter into Radhakund. To bathe into Radhakund is not that your body is there and it touches something. What is the point of your body touching anything? It is that your soul enters into the waters of Radhakund. And so in this way, this access can only be given how? Well, we can see this with Uddhava, right? Uddhava, he enters into Vrindavan. And how does he enter in? With 2 things. One, he gets the instruction of Krishna. Krishna is acting, functioning in that place as the spiritual master. So first, the blessings of the Guru must be given. And secondly, he had heard something. Oh, you will go there and you won't understand what's going on. And he became curious. I want to see this. He had some genuine desire. So to enter into the Dham, there are two central things. One both needs a desire, a genuine desire, to appreciate the Dhamvasis, to appreciate the Dham, not to enjoy the Dham, not to lose my heart in Vrindavan, right? But to serve those who have. This must be there, but also the instruction of the spiritual master must be there. Not that we all become a bunch of raging sahajiyas, right? Anyway, so it is not attained by any fruit of karma. Then the next, it is described as being transcendental to the material world, right? Then the next quality is that it maintains the position of its inhabitants, right? Then it is only attained after transcending the material modes, and we've already discussed that a bit, right? Then the fifth is that even the abodes in the material world are understood to be free of all the modes of nature due to having a presence of the Lord. Thus the spiritual abode is definitely considered as being free of such modes. Then sixth, it is inherently transcendental to material nature, and this is the point that I was making before. It is not that when the Dham appears, it mixes with the three modes of material nature. It is always transcendental. The Dham is not mixed in. It will never become under the influence of matter. In one sense, we can think of it in the way that the soul connects to the body, right? Our soul is somehow engaging with our body, and yet our material body never defiles the soul, right? But it is not like our soul and our body, because our soul does get overruled by the body. But the Dham never gets overruled by the material world. Then the next is that it is eternal. The eighth is that it is only attained by bhakti, which is devoid of even the desire for impersonal liberation. That is the eighth quality. And the ninth one is that it is made of Satchid and Ananda. These are the 9 qualities that define the Dham. And with these 9 qualities, we can see that the Dham is a very special place. It is not a tourist destination. It is not a home of piety. It is not a home of culture, right? Sometimes people will say, it is my culture to go to the Dham, and very good, right? People will get some sukriti. But if we want to get a full understanding of the Dham, we have to understand culture is material, but the Dham is transcendental. It is beyond all of these things. And so, in this way, we see, we hear of the Dham. Of course, the question then gets raised. And then I'm running out of time to discuss pastimes. The question then gets raised, okay, I've been to Vrindavan, right? I've been to Mayapur. I remember when I was first in Mayapur, I was going and I was buying some groceries, right? And I remember next to the store, because I was going late at night, I saw these beer bottles, right? Empty beer bottles next to the store, and I thought, oh, outside of the ISKCON campus, just for reference. But I saw these empty beer bottles, and I thought, oh, what's going on here? And then we go to Vrindavan, right? And how many times do we hear about campaigns to clean the Jamuna, right? To take care of the Jamuna and everything, right? So we go to the Dham and we think, this isn't Satchidananda, right? So, to understand this, we have to understand, again, that the Dham that the Dham is not something that is entered into with the senses. There are 3 levels to the Dham. There's the Prakat Prakash. And the Prakat Prakash is when Krishna manifests and does his pastimes there. And that is what it was like 5,000 years ago when Krishna was there, and he's fully manifesting everything, right? Then there's the Aprakat Prakash. When Krishna finishes his pastimes, he is still doing them, but now they're hidden from everyone's senses. And when they're hidden from everyone's senses, there's something called the Drishyaman Prakash. Drish, meaning to see, right? This is the thing which can be seen by the material senses, the tiny aspect, the little echo of the Dham that can be seen. And that which the Dham naturally reveals of itself. When we see Giriraj Govardhan, we should not think, oh, this is not transcendental, I'm seeing something material. When we see Govardhan and we do Govardhan Parikrama, we should think, I'm seeing here Giriraj himself. Otherwise, why would we worship the Shilas, right? We would be then doing idolatry. we would be worshipping matter, right? So it is transcendental, but it is that which, through its own mercy, has been revealed to us, right? And eventually, that will hide itself away. But what is always eternal is the aprakat prakash, which is the nature that pure devotees, when they go to Vrindavan, they will still be able to perceive all the pastimes. This is how Vrindavan, we know. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he sent the 6 Goswamis, right? And he sends the 6 Goswamis and they discover all the different places, all the Leela Sthalis, right? Where all the pastimes happened. How did they do this? Sometimes we have this idea. We think that, they sat down and they did some research and they compared different things. But no, they sat down under a different tree. And in their trance, they were able to, it's described, each night, different Goswami would sleep under a different tree. And then under that tree, they would engage in a meditation and they would realize, oh, right next to here, this is where this pastime happened. Oh, right next to there, that is where that pastime happened. That is how all of these things were unveiled. The same thing with Bhaktivinoda Thakur. We make a big deal sometimes about Bhaktivinoda Thakur discovering certain documents which revealed the birthplace of Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But when you look at how, when he describes discovering it, he does describe that. I'm forgetting, it's 2 books that he discovered. Anyways, maybe I'll remember, somebody can remind me. There's 2 books he discovers that are primary to his demonstrating the birthplace of Mahaprabhu. But when he discusses it, he discusses it as a point of Siddhanta. He says that Mayapur is a Navadvip, it is a lotus flower, right? And he describes all of the different aspects of it. And so the center of the lotus flower must be the yoga pit, right? And so it is a mystical thing that reveals the Dham, right? It is the mysticism of the acharyas that reveals it, because it is, again, aprakat prakash. Bhaktivinoda Thakur describes having like dreams and visions, right, of all these personalities showing him where all of these locations are. So, this is the nature of the Dham. Now, I have one text in glorification of the Dham, and then with the remaining 3 minutes I have, we'll discuss Brahma Vimohan Leela. Maybe not. So, this text is collected. It's by an anonymous Vaishnav, but Rupa Goswami, he has included it and he has endorsed it as bona fide. So I'll just recite it. He matar mathure tvameva niyatam dhanyasi bhumi tale nirvyajam nataya shatam savidhayam tubhyam sada santunaha hitva hantani tantam adbhuta gunam vaikuntamutkantaya tvayam bhoja vilochana sa bhagavan ye na vitirno hari. And the translation is, O Mother Mathura, you are very fortunate and glorious in this world. We repeatedly offer our respectful obeisances, bowing before you hundreds of times, because the lotus-eyed Lord Hari left his most wonderful Vaikuntha worlds and eagerly appeared within your boundary. So, this is interesting, because it speaks, again, of the nature of the Dham. The Dham is that place which Krishna comes to, which Krishna manifests, which is non-different to Krishna, in order to be able to express his pastimes in the material world. Right? Again, we hear about this. There's the material Vaikuntha. There's the Vaikuntha planet, again, in the Shishumar constellation, which was created as a pastime to please Lakshmi, right? But all of these things are done out of pastime, right? So, what is the nature of this place, right? Here, this is from Padyavali. Here, this Vaishnav, who Rupa Goswami is quoting, is saying the glory of the Dham is not only just that it is a place where Krishna can manifest his pastimes, right? But it is a place where he can manifest pastimes that he cannot manifest in the spiritual world. This is why Krishna is eternally manifesting pastimes in the material world, right? Because in the spiritual world, Krishna is always one age, right? He maintains one age the whole time. And yet, what do we see? Mother Jashoda, she is in the mood of Vatsalya. She wishes to give birth to Krishna, right? She wishes to raise him, teach him how to speak, right? All of these things. How can these pastimes be manifest when Krishna is eternally one age in the spiritual world? The glory of the Dham is that it allows Krishna to manifest all of these other variegated pastimes, and he is able to please his devotees in that way as well. This is the nature of the Dham, and this is the specific quality of the Dham in the material world. It allows Krishna to manifest these prakat pastimes. It enables that, and it enables all that richness of the exchange between devotees. Anyways, I don't think we have time for Brahma Vimohan Leela. Sorry, it was all just philosophy today. Sorry? Jhulan Yatra starts tomorrow or today? Ah, we're doing it today. Oh, okay. Jhulan Yatra is a very rasic pastime. I'm not qualified to discuss it. That's my that's my way out of that. But yeah. Okay, only philosophy today. Sorry. Oh, what can I say about Jhulan Yatra? No, I think it's too rasic. I can say that I'll pray one day to be able to glorify that pastime. Prabhu, do you have any? Yeah. In terms of the first one, Prabhupada writes, I mean, in the Bhagavatam itself, it says that there was no presiding deity on Dhruvaloka before Dhruva Maharaj went there. Did it have the name Dhruvaloka then? I don't know. It could be, because Dhruva just means to be steadfast, right? To be determined. And so that's a very valid description of the pole star that doesn't move, right? So maybe that was the name. I don't know any reference for that. That's just my mental speculation. But definitely we know there wasn't a presiding deity prior to Dhruva Maharaj. In terms of the Mahapralaya, it's understood that the Dham never disappears, but in a mystical sense it's like unmanifest, that's all. It becomes, in the same way that it's uppercut now, like we can't see Krishna running around, even though if we, or at least I can't, if we went, and had some Krishna consciousness, we would be able to perceive that. In the same way, it's there. And we see that at the very beginning of Dhruva Maharaj's pastimes. He gets told to go to Madhuvan, where the lotus feet of Krishna reside. But Krishna had not yet appeared in this world in that day of Brahma. And so we will ask the question. Of course, I know Dhruvaloka is not destroyed in between days of Brahma or anything, but the earth definitely is, right? And yet still the lotus feet of Krishna stayed on the earth. So the point is made by our acharyas that he was told to go where Krishna's lotus feet are, even though Krishna hadn't yet put his lotus feet in this manifestation of the earth. How can you say that? You can say that because the Dham is always eternal. So Krishna's feet are always there. In the same way, Dhruvaloka, my understanding is, if it's being compared to the other Dhams, which it is eternal in that sense. So in a mystical sense, it's eternal. It's uppercut. Because it's not dependent, again, it never touches matter, right? It never actually touches it. So even though the matter is destroyed, it still stays. It's just that we can't perceive it because we can only perceive, again, the drishyaman prakash, which is like what we can mercifully see. But because it never touches matter, the destruction of matter doesn't affect it. How to understand that is a little bit of chintya, right? But yeah, that's in terms of the eternality of the Dham. The lotus feet of Krishna never disappear from the banks of the Jamuna. Yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, Prabhu. Okay. Jai, paneer sabji. Jai, okay. But yeah, hopefully, I think over the next few days there'll be more qualified Vaishnavas to discuss Jhulan Yatra. And sorry, I couldn't reciprocate that. Okay. Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai.